Hello everyone, Matt Dean here from the Boundary Park Alert System, hosting a live stream event this evening, a Q&A with PTB and OASF. I'm just going to bring everybody else in to the equation now, so please mind your P's and Q's, gentlemen. There we go. So everybody, you can see on your screens, there's me waving, hello, Matt Dean, and there's Will Goff. Give us a wave, Will Goff. Bradley Knowles, Will Goff from PTB. Brad from OASF. Give us a wave, Brad.
Hi,
all right. Hi. From Push the Boundary, we've got Steve Shipman. Hello, Steve.
Hello.
And the snazziest of us all this evening in his Christmas jumper is the chair of OASF, Jim Booth. Hello, Jim.
Evening.
Evening. Good stuff. Thanks for joining us, lads. So we've decided that it'd be a good idea to put some questions, put it out there to the public that, you know, what do you want to know about where we're at with PTB and OASF? And hopefully this technology is going to stop crashing on me now, because it's done that a couple of times. And we'll get through some questions. So I'll put it out there that people could get in touch by sending some questions in to the website. And we've done that. And I've got a list here of about 15 questions, which hopefully won't overlap too much. And if they do, we'll skip through them. If people that are watching want to give us some questions or want to know a little bit more about things as we're going through, please leave a comment. Now, tonight, what was supposed to be happening was Andy was supposed to be hosting, and I was supposed to be on the panel, but I've got a host and sort of be on the panel, so I'll do my best. Probably try and keep my mouth shut as much as possible once the questions get going, so I can concentrate on what else is going on and just chip in when I feel I need to. We've lost Steve, so I don't know why, but I'm sure he'll be back. Right, so shall we crack on, lads? Does anyone want to say anything by way of introduction or anything before we start, or will we just get cracking?
I think everyone's heard our voices and seen our ugly faces enough to know.
Well, if they're here now, then they obviously want some more, well, of your ugly mug and your horrible voice. Right, let's crack on. So the first question I've got on the top of my list here was that that we've heard that there have been interested parties, and in terms of buying a club or in that kind of thing, and then this kind of breaks down into 4 bullet points. I'll read the 4 bullet points out, and then we'll go through them one by one. So we hear that there've been interested parties. Are they interested in the ground as well as the club? Is there credible evidence of their financial standing? Do they have an association with the town or the club? And have they made direct approaches to the current owners? So let's start at the first one. So in terms of being interested parties, we can confirm, and we have confirmed, that there are people interested in Oldham Athletic. And that's not surprising, is it? Because earlier on the group chat, someone was saying about the amount of clubs that have been sold recently. It's quite a list, wasn't it? I'm not sure who it was who was listing that, but football clubs sell, don't they?
Yeah,
definitely,
especially league football clubs.
Yeah, exactly. So there is interest. The first question was: are they interested in the ground as well as the club? I think it's fairly obvious that the people that we've spoken to are interested in both and want to bring both together.
Yeah, I think I've got to agree with you about that. I think it'd be pretty stupid to not buy the asset and just have the club. It just doesn't make any sense.
Who would do that? Who would do that?
There's no business sense to do it. That's the way you make money, is through that stand.
Yeah.
I mean,
what?
Go on, Steve.
No, I was just going to say I agree with that. And I think one of the issues it's been is which one do you secure first? Do you go for the ground? Do you go for the club? Do you go from both at the same time? It's political, isn't it? And mainly due to the attitude of one person at the football club.
Yeah, exactly. And it does make things a little bit more complicated. As we go through the questions, there are going to be asking us about the North Stand, specifically Simon Blitz, Abdal, more specific questions. So like in terms of this initial question, is there credible evidence of their financial standing? Well, from our point of view, the people that we've spoken to, yeah, there is. They
Absolutely.
are credible.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they are credible financially and in terms of what they've done business-wise in the past. So, but again, we're entering into tentative conversations, aren't we? This is it's a slow process, and it's one that's very much built upon trust. And I think that's probably the best way to describe the process, isn't it? It's just a trust-building process. I don't think anyone would want anybody to be rushing into a situation like this.
I mean, one of the things that you do with something like this, when you get people wanting to buy a football club and people approaching you, is like you have to do your due diligence. You have to do some digging into the people, what kind of background they've got, what kind of money that they've got, and you see what kind of businesses that they're linked to. And yes, we've seen a chancer come and approach us and speak to us. That nothing's happened with that one, but we have seen people that when you dig into the background, that they've got a lot of money, and they've certainly got enough money to be running a football club.
Yeah, and we've seen one in particular, very credible, financially sound, lots of successful businesses, sporting background, has run clubs before, not necessarily football clubs, but sporting clubs, and done so successfully. So you can't really get someone more fitted to the role than that. But it's just a case of laying everything out to them without scaring them away, because it's a pretty scary situation on the face of it. If someone were to look at Oldham Athletic and try to take in all of the aspects of what's going on at once, they'd be out the door before the conversation was over. There's so much going on.
Yeah.
So you have to sort of layer it correctly when you're discussing it with people.
Yeah, exactly. And the next point on that initial question of do they have an association with the town or the club? I mean, I don't think in terms of the parties that we've been speaking to, there has been particularly, that we've been speaking to directly. That's not to say that there aren't other people, other parties around that may have, but it's not necessarily the most important issue, is it? I think it's about approaching it with the right attitude and understand, like you said, Jim, trying to want to get to know and understand what's going on bit by bit and not rushing into anything. I don't think necessarily that having an association with the town or the club is all that important, providing that the other reasons that they come into it are sound.
Yeah,
I'd agree.
Yeah, I think if there was going to be someone that was from the local area and was going to be interested in buying a football club, you think you probably would have heard from them by now. But I think when we've done quite a lot of digging, and I think that would be an ideal situation to have someone local. But I would suggest it's probably going to come from elsewhere.
I mean, the conversations that we've had have been very much based around, we are the local interest in terms of the fans and OASF, PTB. We are the people we've been speaking to want us to be involved as much as possible because we have the local knowledge, we have the local understanding, and we'll come on to things like contingency funds and businesses and all that kind of stuff a bit later on, but
I think just to touch on that, Matt, I think you can gauge a level of interest from people, can't you, as well? Because I know, it sounds like the people that you've spoken to are probably fairly well versed on what's going on, or if they weren't, then they certainly are now. I guess on the flip side of that, and this is where you've got to be careful. You look at the situation that Rochdale have been in with the hostile takeover. Like, you do get people that come along who, we spoke to one person who didn't even know where we were in the league, and you sort of think, well, if you don't really know where we are in the league, then are you that invested in this? It's sort of weeding them out, really, making sure that you've got someone who's actually, by the time they approach you, they've done the homework.
Yeah, the people we're contacting contact us about results. They do contact us and say, well, what a turnaround on Saturday was one that we got from last Saturday's result. So they're
Know
obviously
the players.
paying attention. Yeah, they know the players. They know which players have come through our academy. They've done their homework. It's just a case of getting them to the table with the correct people.
Yeah, definitely. What I'd add there to Jim, obviously I'm just reading a few of the comments on the side. One of them isn't the dodgy cryptocurrency one. And one of the, like I said, someone just asked what the sticking points are. When we did end the conversation when our first meeting, they did ask, it does sound complicated, but look, any person who's looking at Oldham Athletic now, it does look complicated. You've got Abdallah owning one thing, you've got Brass Bank owning another, and it's two separate parties that you need to deal with. But it's just getting them both together now and working through that. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, the next question is, have they made direct approaches to the current owners? And the answer to that is no. And as far as we're aware, we're not aware of any direct approaches to Abdallah, apart from one that was made, I think it was last year, and it was rebuked. But I don't know if I'm not aware of anybody going to Abdallah directly or through the club directly about buying the club. Does anybody else know any more than that? I don't think we do we?
No, I think we know. Like you say, I think we knew a couple last year that that had approached and made an offer that had been rejected. But I think other than that, I guess given the lines of communication, especially with PTB and the owner, we wouldn't necessarily find out if someone goes straight to Abdallah. Not to say that it's not happened.
Yeah, no, that's it. And look, I mean, one of the things that we're trying to do with things like this is trying to build trust with the supporters, with the wider support group. I think some of the activity on Facebook and whatnot this week suggests that we've got quite a lot of work to do in certain areas, but we're trying to be as transparent as possible. This has never happened before. With PTB and with the foundation, or even the foundation doing an event like this, a public event like this. So we're trying our best to be transparent. We're trying to keep fans informed with as much as we can. I mean, one of the questions, the next one is kind of, are any of these people that are being spoken to, going to go public? And that it's a hard no. Like Jim, the guys that you've been speaking to, was one of the first things he said, wasn't it, about confidentiality?
They said it's the most important thing to them than anything else in the initial stages, and they'll gradually roll out who knows about them as things go along, because they're worried about sort of putting all their eggs into the basket and then someone coming along and outbidding them, because they know that someone else is interested, starting a bidding war and driving up the value of the thing that they want to buy, which makes sense.
I guess just to round off of Will's comment before about we would do our due diligence on somebody if we found out that they wanted to buy the club, and I'm sure that the club would be the same. They do their due diligence on any potential people that want to go and buy it. And if they see that they're worth X amount of money, they might think, well, you know what? They're good for that 5 million I want for the club.
Yeah, that's it. And there's a lot of moving parts to this. It's not just something that happens overnight, is it? And there's a lot of investment that needs to go into the club. There's a lot of there's an audit, there's a survey, there's a lot of digging. You don't going to want to do all that work for somebody else to come along and swipe it from under your feet. So, like I was saying at the beginning of the start of this little section, was about building trust. And what's really important is that, people have reached out to us as organisations as the first point of contact, which means that whatever we've been doing in the last few months has worked insofar as building our own credibility, getting ourselves out to a wider audience, to an international audience. And I'm not just talking about what we've been doing as a few people. I'm talking about the wider fan base. I'm talking about everybody making the concerted effort to raise the profile of the situation at the club, getting us out into national media, the interest that the journalists and media have paid. It's got us attention. It's working. It doesn't mean that someone's going to come in and the club's going to be bought before January transfer window. But what it does mean is that a process has started. And it started because of the resilience that we've started to show and the efforts that we've been putting in.
But one of the things which I'd just like to add there, Matt, is when we did speak to the club in September, October, I can't remember when it was, they said that it would need to be under NDA, any person who was bidding. So the club would restrict it anyway. So I think anything with due diligence now, it just doesn't go public. It's just one of the things in business.
Yeah.
Just with what Gaz is saying there about thinking a bidding war would increase the chances. Yeah, it probably would. So that's why these people don't want to go public with their bids, because they know that they will have competition. So yeah, it would increase the chances, but that's why they don't want to go public. And if in some cases, if they go public, then they'll get put off and then they'll just go elsewhere.
I think one of the things that I'm really keen on as well is I don't mind it taking time. I don't mind building up a relationship and having time to do our due diligence, because on the prospective people that are coming in, and also working out the best deal and working out the best options going forward. It's not necessarily limited to, one party coming in. There are, the fact, like I said, the fact that people have come to us means that we can try and manage things in a certain way and try and find the best outcome for the football club. And that is genuinely what we're trying to do. And we're not experts in this. None of us have done this before. But we're hoping that by being as honest and transparent as possible and having the right intentions, that hopefully we're going to attract similar people. And I think so far the early signs of that are encouraging, aren't they?
Yeah.
From our point of view, at OASF,
point
we've
of view.
spoken to. Yeah.
I'd be thrilled if one of the ones that we've been speaking to came on board, but it's not up to us, is it? So
no. And we just have to make sure we keep doing things the right way.
The other thing as well is when we've got these people that are involved, because of our networking, because of the things that we've been doing with the FSA, we've got them to fall back on as well, so we can run names past them. Because what you find with a lot of football buyouts is that the same people go around different clubs trying to buy out, and a lot of people have already done a load of due diligence. So, we've got other people to call on as well, through what we've been doing with these organisations.
Yeah, that's important. Yeah, absolutely. Let's move on to the next question then, which is quite pertinent, I think. Are we, or any of us, still in contact with the FLG? And if so, are they still interested in purchasing the Boundary Park footprint? Anyone? PTB?
Yeah, we have been in touch with them, and they said they'll have an update for us soon, but no detail. So soon,
yeah,
I guess.
I mean, most of us on this call knew. I worked with Simon Brook on the trust for years. I knew Paul Whitehead for years before the FLG. So of course we stay in touch with people like that.
Yeah. Can you give the fans anything about what may or may not be developing with them in the background, other than your private kind of relationships with them?
The short answer on that one really is we don't know. We it's all very hush hush. So I guess we've just gonna have to see what comes out when it comes out. But it's we've not sort of pry into it too much really.
So there is still, I think for the interest of, there is still an FLG and there is still some stuff going on, but they are keeping their cards pretty close to the chest is a fairly accurate way of sort of summarising it. But as relevant groups, we are trying to, the encouraging thing is that we all have good relationships with those people, and we are trying to keep ourselves in the loop as much as possible, and want to be the first to find out about things, and like I said, the relationships are good enough that is going to be the case. So yeah, it's frustrating for us because we want to know everything as much as everybody else wants to know everything all at once, but it's just not the way it works.
Yeah.
So Simon Blitz guested on the Other Latics podcast with Bill Quarmby, and someone said here, I know Matt has said that the door is open for him to come on the Boundary Park alert system. Has he been contacted and replied? I mean, we do have a line to him, and I think the gist of that I've got is that he would be happy to get involved at some point in the future, but not currently. So
yeah,
that's that really. So no, he's not coming on anytime soon that we're aware of. Question number 6. I've heard that a group has approached Lemsgum about buying him out and has been refused permission to view the books. Has anyone else heard the rumour? And are there other examples of this?
Not what I'm aware of. I don't know. I think they might be just getting tangled up with like the foundation potentially being refused access. That's the only thing which I could take from that. But
it is believable though.
Yeah, I've not heard anything. No.
There is. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of rumours going around, isn't there, about things, and we have to kind of navigate them carefully as best we can. Okay, here's another one of those 2-point questions. If the Lemsgums pulled the plug on the club in the same way that Chris Moore did, does OASF have the funds available to run the club? And if not, what are the contingency plans to stop the club falling out of existence?
No, we don't. It's the short version. We don't have the funds.
No.
And the contingency plan is we need people to put into the contingency plan. The thing that will be needed to keep the club afloat if Abdallah was to leave and the buyer didn't come in straight away would be money. I'm not rich. I don't know if any of you guys are. I didn't really ask you.
No,
not yet.
I have to find somebody else. But yeah, that's basically what we need. We need contribution.
Yeah, that's. I mean, what we did focus groups. I think it was last sort of October, November time, I think, and the key thing that came out of that was obviously the contingency fund and having a bit of a war chest, so that if something happened, then it can at least be run in the short term, just to keep us going for depending on what circumstances are. But that feels as though, obviously correct me if you think I'm wrong, but that feels as though it's a key focus now, that money needs to start getting put in that pot. So there is something there.
One of the things I'm a little bit surprised about from the questions that have come in is that nobody has really asked us too much about the proposal that we put out. There was a few people who were critical and had reservations and concerns, which is fine. That's normal about it. So I think it's probably quite a good idea to sort of just talk about that a little bit, because we put a proposal out saying, look, this is something we've talked about. This is kind of the ideas. There'll be a number of signatories on this. We need to establish as a fan base what we want to do with that money, what that money is going to be used for. We're not trying to dictate what happens to it. We want to consult. We've put a proposal out. It's something we'll have to follow up. I think in terms of the foundation, one of the things that we're going to be doing in 2022 is running it like a business, like a proper business. That has targets, sales targets to make money, and how we're going to do that. We have to raise a certain amount of money to cover our costs. We have to have money to be able to put into events, into other fundraising efforts, etc., etc. So we're going to be very, very much finance based. That's going to be our aim. But we want to know with the fans what's that money going to be for. To say fan ownership is on the way, that might not be what our fans want. So what do we want to do with it, and how are we going to go about doing it, and then really, really setting targets that we can all buy into every single month, saying this is how much money we need to be raising, how are we going to do it, and getting you as a fan base involved in that process. And the quicker and the more we do that, the more businesses we get involved, the more sponsors we get involved, the more events that you put on, that we put on, the more pledges that are made, the wider the message goes out to the public in Greater Manchester and across the country, the quicker we'll get there. It's going to have to be a massive team effort. And we need you guys to really get on board with it and to really help us move that forward. It's not all down to us. It's not up to us to say this is what we're going to do and this is how we're going to do it. Because if we did, then people wouldn't buy into it.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah. So I think that's where we're at with the contingency fund. We'll be moving more forward with that again in the new year. Do you want to have a quick look at some questions that may have come in on the on here? Are you planning on engaging with Steve Brown? As somebody else said about it, I think it was, where is OASF with resuming meetings with the club since they've cancelled previously? Brad?
Well, so basically, October we had. Am I echoing?
Yep.
You are.
Just a minute. Right, there we go. Right. So in October we got put forward to the club as to say I was going in to meet him. The meeting got cancelled. Then in November, me and Jason turned up to the club, left at the door, and basically said that we're not there. We've got to deal with the Keith Curl stuff, sacking, and we'll get back to you. Nothing ever came back. We've got it in black and white in an email saying
specifically said we'll get back to you next week, didn't they?
Yeah, they said they'll get back to us next week. Jason messaged him on LinkedIn. They've had nothing on LinkedIn, and I've had no emails. That is nothing from the club since then. We did put out an open letter to Paul Hughes because we had some correspondence saying that he was going to be our contact. We didn't think that was acceptable. We want to be speaking to people, directors, and if you look back at Abdallah's letter, he said that they were promising us a monthly meeting with one director present, and they're not doing that. So we're taking a hard stance on against the club at the moment, where we want to be speaking to people who actually have authority within the club and taking that forward. We have had some further correspondence with Paul, which came in today. We will be writing back to him, and we will be sharing it with you. Would you say?
Well, look, I mean, I wrote the email today, Brad. I responded to him already, and basically, we're kind of going around in circles. It kind of Paul responded saying, you know, bit of waffle, and then can you accept this as an offer? You know, take this offer in goodwill that it's forwarded in, and I just repeated what we said, and I gave him those 5 points. I said, look, if you want to establish some goodwill, start delivering on some of the promises that you've made to us as 3% shareholder and as the official supporters group. Show some respect, show the fans some respect. I said, we got elected onto the board of OASF because people expected us to start doing something. We made promises to the fans, to the members, and we got a lot of new members in off the back of these promises, and they expect us to deliver them. They expect us to be tough with the club. So we're doing that. We're delivering on our promises, and the club makes these 5 promises. Fans forum, which we requested in the open letter, that's not been acknowledged. The meeting with the board director, at least one board director, and once a month, that's not happened. The 3-year plan, as we all know, that's not happened. So it's just show some respect. If you want to do a gesture of goodwill, start delivering on the promises you've made.
The one that did stick out to me of the 5 promises was a newly elected fan director to the board. And Paul's reply by email today, was it yesterday?
Yeah,
whenever.
yesterday.
The most recent one did say the club approached me to be a director and I turned it down. Mm-hmm. Is that what they were talking about?
I think that's what they would have liked. I think they would have liked to have taken Paul on, and that would have ticked the box, because they knew in Paul they were going to get somebody who wasn't going to be, particularly troublesome in the boardroom or particularly challenging in the boardroom. And that is obviously exactly what is needed. Not somebody who's going to go in there and start throwing over tables and throwing glasses and kicking off, but somebody who is prepared to have a strong stance and challenge what's being said and what's being done in there. I'm sure Paul would argue in his defence that he did that, but I mean, none of us were there to say yay or nay. But that wasn't the impression that a lot of us got through conversations that we had and that we've discussed.
And the other thing is, we've already got a fan on the board, haven't we?
Yeah, we have.
Yeah, we have. Yeah,
Richard. Yeah.
I'm guessing there's been no contacts. I know contacts have been made, but I don't know if there was any responses on that.
I reach out to him occasionally, and I've texted him. But again, this is not. It's like you said, Brad, about with Steve. I mean, the club will say, "Well, we have reached out to you through Paul, but it's the directors. We've had direct contact with the directors. They've got our phone numbers. They've got all access to all our social media and whatnot. They've got our email addresses. There's no reason why they can't reach out to us to arrange stuff and say, look, we care about this issue." It's September. The open letter was the 6th of September. It's nearly Christmas. And we've not heard from one director of the football club in that whole time. And, you know, the approach that's been made has been through a volunteer at the club. You know.
It all boils down to that, you know, the simple thing of, do the club want to engage with the fan base? And, you know, going off their actions, it was clear that they probably don't.
You see, it's not just about the club. Like you said, you know, the club is a catch-all kind of term, isn't it? But we're in a critical situation in the club. We need contact. Our board of directors need to be talking to their board of directors to get this sorted. You know what I mean? It's not. There's no time for messing about. There should be some urgency here, and there is none from the directors of the football club. So they obviously seem to think that whatever it is above them, or it's, well, we're below them, in that they won't come and talk to us because it's not happened, and that's the impression that it gives.
Yeah. The thing what you got to remember is as well, they are going against EFL regulations by not having a fans forum. They're disrespecting us as the foundation and the wider fan base by not having a fans forum. I think it's EFL regulation 127. They didn't do one all last year. The last one which they did was in January 2020. I think 14 of us ended up in the old club boardroom there, and Abdallah were there. I think quite senior people there, and people were asking questions. Again, this season we've not had one. So, the FSA have recently just put out a survey asking what your club's been doing in regards to fan forums, and most clubs have been doing them. We're again in the minority where they don't want to engage.
Yeah, it was one of those reactive questionnaires, wasn't it? Where the first question was, have they done anything? And if the answer is no, the rest of the questions in the form just become completely irrelevant. So it's dead easy for you to fill in, at least.
It's like when they were asking us for nominations for SLO of the year as well.
Yeah.
Which we don't have any.
That support liaison officer, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
But look, I mean, how hard is it to organise something like this? It's really not that difficult. You put an advert out saying we're going to have a Q&A or a fans forum. This could be billed as a fans forum. You know, you have the software, you put the links out, and then you turn up and you take questions. I mean, it's not hard. It's not a difficult thing to do. You can choose which questions you answer. You can ignore any abuse that you might be getting. We're not getting any abuse. I suspect it'd be different kettle of fish if the board of directors of Latics did a fans forum like this. But you know, you get what you deserve at the end of the day, don't you? You reap what you sow. So they're going to have to face that. Well, maybe they're not, but morally, not Adam morally, morally speaking, you have to face the music at some point and face up to what they've avoided for this whole time, which is fronting up. When Adalis fronted up, in inverted commas, he did it on Talk Sport in a pre-recorded interview. He wouldn't even go live. It's just it's not good enough.
This is the behaviour, isn't it, that has got them exactly in this position now, isn't it? Ignoring the fans. We wouldn't be in this situation if they decided to engage and take it seriously. And I don't mean us as in a group. I mean us as in a fan base. But they chose not to. They think they know better, and they've driven so many people away from the club. And you're coming up to a crucial time. Obviously, the half-season tickets have just gone on sale. You're going to have last couple of years we've put season tickets out in February. This is the time when you really need to start kind of oiling the wheels of the fan base and making sure that you're going to have people watching you next season.
Yeah, what do you think about the season tickets, lads? Do you think that there's going to be much take up on it, or do you think that most people that have got them now, that's that?
I don't know. I was speaking to a few people. Obviously, when they've had that statement quote saying that they're being counted already, it's made people think twice. Saying that people will not go in, like say Tuesday nights, just going on Saturdays and being counted for Tuesday. People are feeling a bit funny about it, which I tend to notice. And I think most people went in, got a season ticket this season because we had a season out and it was dirt cheap. I can't see it being that low again this season. What was it, 170 quid? I can't see it being anywhere near that.
No, I'm not sure that they can sustain that.
Again. What about National League tickets, season tickets? What do they average at? What's the average price of a National League season ticket? Because there's every chance that's where we'll be next season.
Yeah, they're not actually that cheap.
No. Comment here asking.
I think we'll get a handful at most. Basically.
Yeah, they've definitely got some. You see the comments on Twitter. Some people are sort of umming and ahhing about it, probably because they've done it off the back of a 5-5 win, and and just the fact that it's cheap. I'm taking a moral stance on this, but it's so cheap.
There's a question here, and this is something I've been thinking about. Can we think a bit more about supporting the team than moaning about the owners? By the way, I'm a season ticket holder. This is something that I've actually been thinking about this because stay away. I've not been going to the games. It's very, very difficult in this situation to stand by the principle of not going to Boundary Park and paying the money and funding the owner of the football club, because the instinct is to get into Boundary Park and support the team and try and get behind them and try and keep us in the division. It's hard. This is now for me, it's becoming quite difficult to stay away, because I do feel that there is my place when the chips are down is in the stands trying to egg the team on. And how do you lads feel about that?
The thing is, I'm the only one here who has a season ticket and goes to most home games. Well, all the home games apart from Forest Green. People are supportive of the team. The Athleticos have done, obviously they've had their own protest bit, but they have got behind the team. They've created some cracking atmospheres. You have a look at Port Vale was one when they came, one in the earlier season, I think it was Tranmere in the Cup. They were fantastic. They got behind the team. It's not all negative. If you have a look at it, I've seen people say, I've got stats showing when we've people have been on the back, we've lost and stuff like that. The Athleticos boycotted a few games. One which springs to mind is the Harrogate game where Abdallah was in the country. The ground was definitely silent. There was nobody singing Abdallah out, nobody chanting anything. We got beat. So I don't understand the argument which people are saying, the negativity is getting bad results. Last year, nobody was in the ground for the full year. We got bad results. It happens.
Yeah. Well, for some of the protests activity as well, the team have actually won. The pitch invasions, for example, 2 of them came after matches we'd won. So the atmosphere can't have been too bad for the players on those particular occasions. I'm with you, but I don't understand how people are correlating the two.
I don't think the atmospheres, the games I've been at, you look at like an Orient game, we did your 4th minute, Abdallah out, chant. I think that the atmosphere, considering that we got beat 4-0, I don't think it wasn't negative at any point. They were really, we really got behind the team all game, other than that allocated bit of time. So I just don't think there's a correlation. Now, I guess on the flip side of that, and it was what you touched on, Matt, is that we are in a sticky situation, and I've been giving this some thought, and there will come a time when the chips really are down, and the team will need people in the ground, and they'll need the support. The challenge is, say for example, I'm not saying that we would do it, but say for example, we came out and we said, right, we want you to go to all the home games, get yourself a half-season ticket, and we're really going to get behind the team. Like all the survey of fans that we've done would suggest that people wouldn't do it. We can suggest it, but I'm not sure it would happen. So many people, as you can see from the packed park, is that you have a lot of people replying and saying they're not getting a penny from me. I'm not buying into it. This goes way beyond just supporting the team and putting your money in. It's people that have had to put up with so much from the football club over the last few years that they refuse to go back, and that's not something you can just flick a light switch and everyone will just get back in the ground. It's not as simple as that.
No, and that's personal decisions as well. That's not off the back of anything that pushed the boundary or anybody else has said. People are coming to these conclusions on their own, and they won't be swayed one way or another because they'll make their own minds up. And one of the accusations that's been chucked around at us this week, is that we're trying to make people do things, and that we're being critical of people who still got, like, Brad, you go to the game every week. Have any of us ever give you any grief for going to the game?
No. To be fair, if people wanted to give me grief, I wouldn't even be asked.
No, but the point is that we've always said it's not just yours. We believe in freedom. You know what I mean? You can do what you want. But all we've asked people to do is think about why you're doing something or not doing something, and do it for the right reasons. And so I get it. I mean, the guy who asked, it's Andrew Gray, said that the atmosphere at Boundary Park has been toxic this year and kept him away. I would argue that the Boundary Park atmosphere has been toxic for years. Like, it's not been great. Like, there's been plenty of moaning and whining, and it's not been a great atmosphere at Boundary Park for a long time because the football's been terrible. It's a slow decline. Further on, it says that he goes to Burnley and sees the fans cheering the team when they're losing at half time. It's always dreadful at Latics. But, I mean, you can't really compare Premier League Burnley to second bottom Latics and the current situation with the owners. So I don't really think that kind of adds up. Of course, it's different at Burnley. Burnley fans expect to be down near the bottom of the Premier League and are delighted if, want to keep their team in it. So it doesn't really stack. But I take your point that, your experience at Boundary Park isn't what it should be. But I don't think you can blame, because what's been levelled at fans this week is that it's Latics fans that are causing this issue at Boundary Park. If we all just turned up and were happy, then it would be a different story. But I think what the counter argument to that is, no, there are some serious issues at Boundary Park, and that's why people feel this way.
That's why people aren't happy.
Yeah.
And this
is something that the club could do something about. But, again, they're not reaching out to the fans, are they? That's the thing. Like, it shouldn't be up to fan groups to get people back in the ground to support the team. That should be up to the club.
Yeah.
On that point, Steve, like, if the club really wanted fans getting back in, they could reach out to us as one of the foundation, put out a message or something like that. The club, they've not done anything like that.
Yeah.
No, they don't.
It's a two-way street. We can't be. I think what we need to stop doing is pointing the finger at each other, and actually start pointing fingers at the club. There's no, we can dress this up whichever way we like, really, but there's only one reason why the club is in this situation, and that's because of the way it's being run. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, I'm just going to keep coming back to Andrew. He keeps commenting. He says it's a minority, but please stand up and distance yourself from toxicity and hatred to players. I mean, I think there's always been. I mean, that comes from the main stand all the time. The main stand would be the people that at the minute are the staunch kind of like back the club, but that's always been a fairly nasty atmosphere in the main stand towards players,
especially the paddock area.
Yeah, exactly.
John Sheridan complained about it on the podcast he was on the other day.
Yeah,
said he ended up turning around and telling someone to F off because they kept giving him grief. So
yeah,
it's clearly
kind
not
of like
a specific group.
No, this is what people. This is people picking and choosing what suits in terms of like a narrative. Well, that kind of negativity at Boundary Park and that toxicity and that attitude towards players. How many players have come to Latics, been dreadful, and gone off and done well somewhere else? Like there is probably numerous reasons to of why that is, but there's a lot, and we all have to take responsibility for that. For Boundary Park, for the atmosphere, for the way the club's being run. And we all have a responsibility. And that's what I'm trying to say to everybody, that we do all have a responsibility. There is no need to start absolutely slating one of the players and screaming him, calling him, names that are awful and things like that. Your responses should be proportional, in my opinion. So going forward, sorry, has anyone else got a last question, last point on that?
I was just going to say.
Oh, go on, Steve.
No, I was just going to say, I don't feel as though there's a particular. It's not like we've got when in the past at Latics, we've had boo boys, haven't we? You've had that player that just gets stick from fans, and I wouldn't necessarily say it feels like we've got that at the moment. I don't think there's any. There's not like one player that you kind of single out and think, well, he's crap. Like the way that Ollie Banks got it, or like maybe like a Dan Gardner or someone like that. They just seem to get picked off, but they don't feel like we've got that at the minute. So yeah, I'm not sure I totally agree. But
is that because we've got more of them now?
Yeah. No comment.
The thing, all I got at is, like I said, fans turn up and they pay the money. It's always happened. I remember getting absolute drummed 7-0 at MK Dons before Christmas. The fans give the players shit, basically, because they didn't turn up. And Crew away, probably the most toxic atmosphere I've been in. Nothing's got close to that. Just if players are turning up and not performing, fans are always going to give it them. No matter if you're Abdallah in, Abdallah out, they're going to get it.
Exactly. I think that's a good point, and a good point to end this particular part on, because that's not about who's the ownership or anything like that. It's just about slating performances in the same way that you would acknowledge a good performance and you'd clap it and you'd get behind it. So I think I answered this question earlier on, but about the contingency fund and how we're going to confirm that we'll be spending the money in the right way. And like I said about ensuring we'll be consulting fans, we'll be bringing people in to have an independent monitoring of the fund. Has anyone else got anything they want to say about the contingency fund?
Well, we outlined in the proposal that any withdrawals from that fund would go to the membership for approval of that expenditure anyway. So regardless of what we want to spend it on, which won't even come into it, we'd have to get the authorization of our members first anyway. So yeah, we're not going to touch it unless we're told that the people are happy with what we're spending it on.
Yeah.
All I like to add to that is it's not one of them funds which we're creating we're just going to be constantly withdrawing. Like I said, this season we're going to pay for academy kits. It's got to be all in one, and it's got to be agreed all in one.
Yeah. It's for emergencies, isn't it? It's for something specific, like it was outlined, be it the purchase of the stadium, the purchase of the football club, or something along those lines.
It's very difficult to choose one specific thing for it to be for, because we did discuss that, but the situation at the moment is so fluid, so many different things could happen, that if we were to say, okay, it's to buy the stadium, and then a new owner came in and bought club and stadium, and it turned out they were amazing, that money sat there, and the reason that we put it there doesn't exist anymore. So it's really hard to say we're doing it for this specific thing, because we don't know what's around the corner. There's no stability in the club, so we can't say exactly what it's for, but we've outlined the various different things that could happen in the proposal.
And then fan consultation and member consultation will happen going forward, and we'll decide together. I think that's probably the most reassuring thing that we can say.
Whatever the proposal turns into, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's fixed. If it does come out that people want it to try to purchase Boundary Park, and then what I mentioned before does happen, we can cross that off the list and replace it with something else if the members agree to it. It doesn't necessarily need to be super specific reason that we've got it there, but it needs to be there.
Maybe it can sit there for down the line when, you know, we're in the shit again and, you know, the stadium becomes available and we can do it then. It's one of those things, like you say, with it not being specific, you have to decide at the time and have sensible people making a decision and putting proposals forward and letting members decide what it's for and what it can be used for at the time.
Yeah,
definitely. And all what I'd like to add on that is if we can show that we've got a decent amount of money there, and like I said, Jim just said it, down the line, we've got a good order, we've got this money here, we want to invest. We can go to the owner then and say, we want to increase our sharing. This is what we can offer you here, and see what we get from that. It's going to be, if things go well, it's a two-way street there.
Yeah, I think that's why we made the point earlier on about running the foundation like a business as well, and being taken seriously. And you know, the people that we have to deal with going forward, whether they be future investors, that the support that we've got, one of the most progressive supporters trusts in the country that is focused on making serious money, that's focused on being super professional, and is an attractive business partner for potential investors in the future. I think that's really, really important. So I think we've started that process now. I think that's the attitude of the current board and the direction that we want to go in. So I think that leads us on nicely to the next question, which is what does the future Oldham Athletic you seek look like on and off the pitch? And what can fans practically do to realise that ambition? So that links into the contingency fund. So lads, what does your, because this is a question that could be applied to many thousands of people, but it's not up to us to determine what the future of Oldham Athletic looks like, but as an individual. But what would you like to see the collective fan base striving towards, I suppose, is a more fair way of putting it.
I think, well, I mean, I guess from our perspective, I mean, it'd be definitely to, under the right circumstances, it would be to have everything under one umbrella. I'm not necessarily sure at this stage that is the right way forward under the current ownership. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's not. But it's just to have it so that there's constant engagement between the club and the fan base, and it's that holistic sort of view of everybody working together who can challenge decisions, and it's taken in the right spirit to achieve the right outcome for the football club. You know, I think we want the club to be sustainable. We want it to sort of run itself. You know, we don't want an owner that's going to have to put his hand in his pocket. You know, like you said before, Matt, about running the foundation as a business. That you know, we've got to run the football club like it's a proper business. You know, and there's a lot of investment opportunity, you know, in what we've got if we do the right things and get the fans on board. And yes, I mean, there's a really good website if people want to have a look at it. It's called Think Fan Engagement, which that gives. I think they did a brochure. I might put it on the PTB timeline, but about what a good football club looks like in terms of its engagement with fans and things like that. And there's a number of points that it goes into both on and off the pitch and in all different areas of the club. And it's a really, really good, engaging read because it just outlines all of the good attributes that you would see at a football club. But I'll post that link.
Yeah, please do, Steve. Yeah. I mean, from my personal point of view, I'd love to see a self-sustainable football club. I'd love to see a zero waste football club, a carbon neutral football club. I'd like to see as much produce that's served in the club to be locally sourced, locally made. I'd like to see lots of local businesses benefiting.
Community. I'd like it to be a community.
Very much a community club. I'd like it to be at the very, very heart of the community, and not outsourcing for the cheapest this, cheapest that, but trying to create the best experience and encouraging the best local providers and just be a real I mean, Forest Green come up with a lot of stick, but like, you know, you've got a football club with an owner with a real vision, and you can't knock that. And you to be a model football club, to be doing things the right way for the right reasons that is sustainable. That's because if you think about the perception of athletics at the minute, it's the opposite of all that, isn't it? It's just the opposite, and so it's kind of like, what do you want to do? How do you see the future? Well, just like the opposite of what it is now, really, would be ideal. Just to sum it up.
It's like going back when we used to win awards for being a family club, getting that feel, and something that Damien's put in the comments there about maybe not being like an American model and having maybe like tailgate parties and stuff, but having more of an experience at the ground, having a fan zone, having bars where people can drink some, proper beer that's not J.W. Lee's lager and Carlsberg and everything, giving people a bit more of a choice and having, a bit more fun with it.
Like a place that people want to be.
Strange, isn't it? Rather than
that'd be really nice.
5-3. Going to the match, watching the match, and then going straight to the pub afterwards. It's been like that for years. It's not just Abdallah. It was getting like that under Corney as well, and it wasn't great. But to have something like that where people just enjoy the day out, Jesus, it's not much to ask, is it?
No, they've got the facilities to do it. It's just been cut down and cut down and cut down and cut down to the point where it's literally just watch the football match and go home.
I think the second part of the question here is important because it's what can fans practically do to realise that ambition? Because this is what spurred me into action, really, I suppose, in terms of everything that I've got involved in over the last year or so, was this sitting around waiting for someone to do it. Gets incredibly frustrating because it's not going to happen. You know what I mean? It's like I wasn't getting the fan media that I wanted. We're talking about the issues, so that's why I started the podcast. Waiting for it to happen is going to get you nowhere. So it's what are we going to? The question is there. What are we going to practically do about it? And I guess from OASF's point of view, I've used this analogy a number of times, but looking at ourselves as like the shadow government. The shadow government is there and it is ready to take over. You have a national general election the day after the shadow, the opposition party takes over and runs the country because it's got access to the information that it needs. It knows what it needs to do. It's organised. It's got people in the right positions. And that is, I feel, as the Supporters Trust, we need to build up that portfolio of information and the finance to be able to do it as and when it needs to be done, and we're going to need a lot more bodies, and we're going to need a lot more energy and people putting effort in to be able to do that. I think that what we've done now is we've turned the corner in terms of what the foundation is. We're trying to sort of re-establish it and move it forward. We're working with PTB, which gives us more people to liaise with, more expertise. You guys do a lot of work that we can tap into. So I think that, and we've been getting a lot more approaches from people wanting to get involved. So I feel that we're in a good place to start that process. I don't feel that we've done very well at it in the past, but I feel that we are laying the right foundations for it in the future.
Yeah. All I say, every fan has a skill, and we always need volunteers. We can always put people to use. It's like the club are victims of their own downfall here, where a friend of mine, he went to the club and said, right, I can do all the maintenance work around the place. I'll do it nothing. Just pay for costs of my materials. They even bother getting back to him. But imagine that now, down the line, somebody's there willing to volunteer the time. How would that's saving money at the end of the day? And it's a fan who's willing to do that. This is what we need. We need people volunteering.
That either. That's happened a few times.
Exactly. Loads of people have trades. We get in touch with, message us. We might need you down the line.
What I've been saying to people as well is when they've been contacting us is, what we need doers. We need people who are going to do. Like, we've all got a lot of stuff to do already, right? for like getting in touch and saying, "Can I help?" is great, but what we need is people to get in touch and say, "I've got this idea. I've got this vision that I want to do this. I think that this would be complementary to the kind of things you're doing. Do you think that's a good idea?" And we can turn around and say, "Yeah, we'll support that. You lead that. You run with that." Because it's can't be up to us to lead everything. We need fans to come and say, "Look, I've got this idea. I've always thought this would be really good. I've always thought that. Why aren't we doing this?" Well, come and do it. Come and suggest it, and lead on it, and do it. That's what we need. We need proactive people that are going to lead on stuff and volunteer their time and their energy by actually taking something forward, rather than saying, "I'm volunteering," and then just waiting for a reply. You know what I mean? We're looking for those kinds of people. I think that's really important.
Yeah. The short version is contribute. What can fans do to help the effort? Contribute. If you've got time, contribute it. If you've got a skill, contribute it. If you've got some money, contribute it. And that's how we get to where we need to be. Because realistically, the foundation's only 7 board members, and PTB is only 4 guys. We can't do that much stuff. There's not enough people.
Because what happens is you end up with people like me producing Christmas singles that are terrible. What we need is some of Oldham's premier talent stepping forward. And
that's not affiliated with the foundation. We didn't approve that.
No. They didn't ask for approval. We didn't approve your Christmas jumper either. Anyone else want to throw in a dig? Or should we move on to the next question? So we start while we're giving each other grief. This seems quite pertinent because I'm going to mention Rochdale now, so we can all we're all warmed up. But somebody asked us, do you ever envisage Rochdale's fan share ownership as being a possibility for Latics?
I think Paul's put it on there as well, didn't he, about Real Oviedo, where they've done the same. What I don't know. Obviously, you guys pushed around. You might have spoke to Rochdale Trust a bit more than what we have. What I can see, the problem with that, you get hostile takeovers. I think you had the dodgy guy at Charlton who's been around sniffing at a few clubs. He bought up shares, and they've had to dilute shares, and it's been a bit of a mess. What I can see, and they've finally just got over it. That's one of the problems. We've got our share in here at 3%. I think, asking you guys, I think we would like that to increase in the future. But I wouldn't like to see a Rochdale type model. I don't know what you, Steve, Will, what you think of that.
Yeah, like you say about Rochdale, like we've seen with the hostile takeover, it has worked for them for years. I mean, it's never been, there's never been massive successes where they've got promotion to the Championship or the Premier League or anything. But they seem to run things pretty well. They've developed their youth. They've done really well with sell-on clauses, but the flip side is that you open yourself up to hostile takeovers. For me, when you look at like German model, so like 50+1, that's probably the way that most clubs should be looking at being run these days.
Yeah. I think there's a ceiling on that fan-owned clubs. You're very much dependent on that investment and your crowds and things like that. So it's like you look at the teams that do it and do it well. Exeter probably a good example of that. It works for them up to a certain level. Now, if we want to get back to that kind of upper League One, would fan ownership work at that level? I'm not sure. That's not to say that something like that couldn't work in the short term, and I do think there's a hell of a lot to be said, as Will said, about fans having more of a say in the running of the club. The landscape in football is completely changed over the last 30 years. Trusts were only brought into the game in 2004, 2005, because they weren't required before that. Being a football fan, I think, is different than it was 20, 30 years ago. It's not just about standing on the terraces. It's about getting more involved, because that's the way the game's gone. I think you've got to move, you've got to evolve with that, and I think, and that's probably the challenge for us going forward, is fans having more of a say, so that we don't end up in a situation like this again.
What about this question from Matthew here? Have conversations with the council led to discussions about the land stadium being bought by the local authority? I mean, it was owned by the council in the past. You lads have been talking, PTB been talking to the council, haven't you? I don't know. Do you want to give us a bit of an update on that and let us know if that particular conversation was had while you were talking?
What was the first bit of the question? Sorry, Matt.
About the conversations about the council basically taking, purchasing the ground and having a community stadium like some other clubs.
Yeah, we actually had it on our list of questions to ask when we went in to see them, and pretty much without prompting, they said, like, it's not like we're not going to buy the ground, so we struck that one off the list. So I don't think that's going to happen.
Wasted all the money on the spindles, didn't they?
Well, yeah. So I mean, it was a good conversation. They want to get involved, which is obviously more than what we've got out of them in the past. And it's ongoing. I think we're trying to get another meeting. We're just trying to finalise the date, but I think it's probably going to be early January. So we might be able to sort of do a bit more digging, give you an update after that. But
right.
But yeah, in short, they're not going to buy the grounds. It's not going to be community owned.
It's not going to be owned by the council, community owned. Anyway, there are other potential opportunities through the fan base. Yeah. But yeah, it's one of those things. It kind of ebbs and flows, doesn't it? Things with football grounds. You have a good spell where look at Wigan under Dave Whelan, and Blackburn under what's it called? Jack. What's it? Back in the day, Jack Walker. They probably thought this is it now. We're always going to be successful, and then look what's happened to it, particularly Wigan. They've gone into administration and everything else. So you never know, do you? Like there's not this consistent. If you come in, you get an owner coming in spending money, that person's going to move on at some point. And it's I think that this kind of I think what's happening with the fan-led review and what's going, the way that we're starting to look at this is how do we maintain some kind of stability. You can't always get success on the pitch. That's what these European Super League, Champions League, top end of Premier League teams want. They just want consistent success year after year after year, and this to get this money from the top level of the game. That's not sport. There has to be a level of competition. But what you don't want is that you want to have that level of competition in the sport, but without the threat of your club going out of business and it destroying the fabric of a local community. And I guess that's the balance at the end of the day, isn't it? That we need to work towards. But at least this conversation is being had now on a much more sort of national level and a more political level.
Yeah, and I think, to be honest, and touching on Exeter again, it's about having a plan. No jokes on that one, but Exeter have got a plan. They supplement the income that they get by investing it in the youth and selling a player a year for where they get a massive windfall on it. And that keeps them going. And I think what we need going forward is a plan along those lines where we can say, right, we are going to invest in that. So if we can sell a player for $1 million a year, then that's the running cost for the club. Anything else is a bonus and can go into the squad. We've not got that at the minute.
Wasn't that Abdallah's plan? Invest in the youth, bring in players, sell them on. Isn't that supposed to be what's happening now?
Well, allegedly, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's been a couple of questions about Zoom consultations. I think that's something we'll take away and have a think about, Steve.
Yep.
Yeah, like the work
Zoom. Did you say?
Yeah, like the workshops that you did before. Yeah.
Oh right. Yeah. Absolutely, we'll take that away.
Yeah, and it could be something we could do for the contingency funds as well, couldn't it? We could get some work groups together for that and get people that are interested to come and have a chat. Yeah, we've got a question from we'll skip Gary's because he says we're all drivelling on. I didn't read his question out. meant we'd either covered it already or it didn't make any sense. It was one of the two. The Scarpagara War, that's our pals at Stockport podcast. Fundamental question from outside: are all your supporter groups aligned? I think that depends on what you define as a supporter group, doesn't it? So I think we would say that PTB, OASF, and Atleticos have been working really well together because we try to find common ground and work together. There are potentially other groups that aren't official groups outside of that are more difficult to penetrate. What would you say, lads? Brad, have you got a thought on that?
Yeah, I've got a great. Obviously, I speak to quite a few people, and I think we're in a lot better position than where we were probably say 12 months ago. We pushed the boundary on the foundation, and I think with the Atleticos getting involved, I think we're all singing from the same hymn sheet more or less. People are talking, and that's what we need, more dialogue. And obviously, these groups, the realistic lot, come to the table, speak to us. We're more than happy to hear your opinion, and we're not going to moan at you or begrudge you for having that opinion. We just like to speak to all fans.
Yeah, and like I'm sure this one of those. If we sat around a table with, I'm sure that there has to be common ground somewhere because we all support the same football club. There's got to be common ground. And it's not about throwing stones at each other, and it's about dialogue and discussing things properly. The future of the club's at stake. Let's make no bones about that. So it is important that we're all on the same page. But yeah, I think the dialogue between Push the Boundary and the foundation, I think, that's been a real positive. I think over the last few months, definitely.
Yeah, and the Atleticos as well, because there has been, times where that thread has changed action. It's changed things that maybe were going to happen and they haven't happened, and there's been requests for patience and things like that, and there has been dialogue that has affected things. One of the questions that was here that I thought was interesting was, can you get more airtime on TalkSport? It said, what it says here is, in the question was, last time it flushed out Lemsgate memorially. I don't agree with that. I think it was the action that was taken by the fans that got the media attention that then in turn, resulted in Adam Morley and Lemsgate going on the radio. So I don't think it was the actual being on the radio that did that. But I think the fundamental important point there is that by keeping things in the media spotlight, by putting pressure on the club and the owner, that's what flushes him out, or should do. It's either one or the other. He either goes into hiding or he shows his face briefly. Mainly it's hiding, obviously. But, what do we need to do? I mean, are we doing enough to stay in the media spotlight? Is there more that we can do? One of the other questions here was, do you still advocate a boycott as well? And I guess it's a kind of like, where do we go from here in terms of in terms of the protest and the media spotlight on the situation?
I think one of the things which we might need to look at doing, I think Alan just put on there, is there going to be another mass protest? I think it might be another case of that soon. Potentially later in Orient coming up, but we don't know where we're going to be at with COVID at the moment. If games are going to be behind closed doors, so it's hard to get something organised. Last one was at Hartlepool, 5th of September. So we're talking nearly, it's been 4 or 5 months since then. I think once we get over this Christmas period, January, February time, and things haven't improved, I can't see a reason why we wouldn't do another mass protest.
Yeah, I think that's definitely on the cards. Obviously we did the empty the park, which I think that had to be done that way to get maximum effect. I think, or else if we'd have just done one or the other, it wouldn't have worked. And I think, I think a protest. I think the other thing for me, give me if I'm speaking out of turn, Will, but I think there needs to be more focus on Mohammed in terms of his role. I think if you believe the reports, he seems to be the one that is running the club day to day in terms of decision making. And for me, I think if he gets if he gets bored or disgruntled, then you're more likely to have Abdallah accepting a lower asking price for the football club. I think he's probably more pivotal than Abdallah at this stage.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I mean, obviously, I put that video out with the song, and I tried to do sort of like numerically, sort of a countdown in a certain part of it. 3,000 signatures, 3 chief execs, over 100 players, 10 head coaches, 1 sporting director. I mean, it says it all, doesn't it? It says it all. But like Steve, you and I spoke to Abdallah. As long as Abdallah owns the football club, Mo's going to be in that position. He's already made that very, very clear. So, it's extremely frustrating because there is limited things that we can do. We've had a questionnaire from Dave Bradley. I think, Dave, if you go back and watch the recording of this conversation, you'll probably get a better feel for some of the questions that you've missed. You've come in late, so I don't want to re-record it, to repeat ourselves. But, it's not as easy. It's easy to ask questions about what are you doing and how are you going to do this, that, and the other. It's far more difficult to action them and to do things. And that post that we all read about being called fascist. We've been called fascists and racist this week, which is really serious stuff, and it's absolute nonsense. Because in the one hand, you're being called a fascist, right? Which fascists impose their will and suppress their opposition. The protests that have been organised by PTB have all been based in consultation, in surveys, in asking fans which course of action you think is the most likely to get the most support and do that. So this whole process has been as democratic as it possibly can be. So start throwing accusations like that around and using language like that is absolutely ridiculous and will not be treated with anything other than contempt because it has no credibility. There is evidence of this process since it began, and it's been as democratic as it possibly can be. And I think that's really important, and we'll carry on doing that. In terms of like being strategic, I think we've highlighted it already in the types of things that we want to do. But again, it takes time. I'm not going to apologise for saying that we've had to do a lot of internal restructuring in the. I know you didn't call anyone a fascist, Dave. I wasn't talking about you. Dave's looking at me. I didn't call anyone a fascist. No, not in your post. It was all over Facebook and Twitter today. There was somebody else called PTB fascists and somebody else accusing PTB of being racist, and it was just it's this kind of language that is just linking it back to the question from the Scarf Pagara War earlier on the county podcast is that how do we pull fan groups together when people are saying things like that, completely unfounded lies? It just does not serve. It's not even. It doesn't contribute to the narrative, to the conversation whatsoever. It just is a waste of time. And I think we should try and ignore that kind of stuff rather than actually drawing attention to it. But here we are drawing attention to it right now. But you have to draw a line under it at some point.
I think, but I think you also need to understand why it's been said. What is it personal? Is it the fact that they don't agree with what we're doing, or that we're challenging the club? Like, there has to be a reason for it, and if you can understand that, then you might be able to get somewhere. But if it's just going to be mudslinging, then it's counterproductive.
It seems to come in sort of little gluts. Several different people will conveniently have a problem with PTB or OASF at the same time, and then it goes away for a few weeks, and then several different people will have a problem at the same time, and it's never the same problem. It's never something that's currently going on. They always just pick something out and attack it. I don't understand the logic in it.
And like we know, obviously, my mate Ross, who's associated with the county podcast, and he did a lot of work with the co-op at county, and he'd be handing out leaflets when they were going through bad times, and he'd be getting called trouble cause by people going in the ground. And I think I think a lot of it just comes with the territory, and that you're trying to challenge the norm, and a lot of fans just don't want people to do that. They want things to just naturally get better, and you know, without speaking out of turn, the situation's not going to get better. If we leave it, the situation's not going to. It's not going to be a happy ending, is it? We know that for a fact. So,
no, 'tis the nightmare before Christmas, Steve. No, but yeah, like, you know, I mean, I posted the links to this tonight into Facebook groups and stuff. You know, the people that have got a problem with us, I don't know if they're watching tonight. You know, it's the same people all the time. But when we reach out to, I mean, the lady who posted the thing about the fascism thing, I actually sent a private email and they responded, and then they said, look, I respect you for reaching out. We had a bit of a chat, and I said, we can usually find more common ground than you've got against each other if you actually take the time to speak to people, and having empathy from somebody else's point of view and listening to it without, you know, judging it is important. But it's a two-way street, and we're just going to have to try and be patient, and we're just going to have to try and keep plugging away. The question about the boycott, I think, is one of those divisive questions. It really is one of those issues that is dividing fans. There are the people that are saying that by boycotting, we are contributing to the demise of the football club, and our stance is that by not taking any action at all, we're contributing to the downfall of the football club. So how do we find that happy medium and that middle ground that we can all? I mean, Russ, you tell us, mate. You've been through it with Stockport. How, you know, with Blackpool, all these other fans. But you know, we're Oldham and we're our own breed. How do we do it?
I think the term boycott is probably it's just another way of saying that people have stopped going because they can't. They've got to a point where they can't bear to continue putting into the regime, which again that falls back on the club, doesn't it? I think that sometimes the term boycott can just be bounded around like it's the easiest thing in the world, so I'm just going to boycott. You know, as anybody who's not going to games anymore will attest to, it's one of the most difficult decisions you can make to stop going watching your football club. You know, this is not a decision anybody takes lightly.
No, it's hard. It's really hard.
Yeah, you know, and I think that people, you know what, however people want to do it and show their displeasure, then that's the right thing to do. You know, obviously within legal boundaries. You know, we'll announce more action. We'll do other things, and if people want to get on board with that, then great. And if they don't, then they don't. But you know,
I think because one of my main frustrations is like, you know, you ask someone, well, what would you do? Just back the team is often the kind of thing you get back. Well, that's not. I mean, that's one thing, and you can do that by all means. But how do we tackle the other issue, which is the ownership running the club into the ground and into the National League?
Yeah.
Just backing the team isn't enough, is it?
No.
Not anymore, I don't think. No.
No. You have to try. You have to try things, and you have to try and be a bit inventive with it sometimes. So, like we did, you know, with the pack the park and empty the park, is, you know, trying different things. And at the start of the season, people talk about the boycotts and things. And yes, at the start of the season, we did mention boycotting home games and just following away matches, because that's what was suggested by, you know, quite a few of our members. You know, we tried it, and it's very emotional calling for a boycott, and you know, it may have been the wrong thing, and it probably didn't quite work, having called it a boycott, which is why we kind of turned things around and said, okay, you know, we understand people want to do what they want to do, so we will do something different. So the only boycott that we've had recently has been that one match, which has just been a one-off off the back of getting people into the match for another match. So yeah. At the moment, considering how emotional it is, I don't think there's any boycotts on the horizon. Not official boycotts. I mean, everyone who is staying away off their own back is their own. Jim, you've not been to Lassits for a long time. Steve, you haven't. You know, I mean, people are enforcing their own particular version of a boycott. It's just not an official organised thing. Rossets responded there. There's no silver bullet. Wrexham hounded the owners
House, we did mid-match centre circle protests. Blackpool avoided matches. It just depends what works best for the fan base. So we'll have to just keep plugging away, won't we? But like you said, Steve,
hound in the owner's house. Are we all on a trip to Dubai?
Enjoy the Dubai sun. Yeah.
Shameless.
Yeah, I know. Plug. But look, Luke has just made a comment there. He'll be back the minute Abs is gone. Whilst he's here, he won't step the foot inside. Here's one. It's the Phoenix Club. Have you guys open dialogue around a potential Phoenix Club?
100% no.
No, I mean, I would be all for opening a social club like the Phoenix Club, adjacent to Boundary Park with cheap ale and a snooker table and all that. But I think that's as far as it goes.
Castle.
Maybe, yeah. Brad, you were in there very adamantly then, mate.
Yeah, I don't think a Phoenix Club. I think when we discussed the contingency fund, we asked the question: should we put a Phoenix Club on there? Would it be used for that? But this is Oldham Athletic. At the end of the day, we're all fans of Oldham Athletic. We are here trying to save Oldham Athletic. We don't want to be creating a new club. This is what 126 years of history. We're not going to let that go down the drain.
No.
While there's a club on Furtherwood Road that is Oldham Athletic, then we do everything we can to try and save that for the fans.
Yeah.
The other thing,
look at the situation at Bury as well, like the way that obviously the Bury AFC Bury situation, and that's just created an even bigger divide in their fan base. So yeah, it's not something that we'll be doing.
Because this is one of those narratives that certain people are saying in certain Facebook groups and all the rest of it. PTB just want to start a Phoenix Club and all this. It's just nonsense. Like if we can, it's hard enough work to get people involved in trying to save the current football club. Has anyone any real idea of how much work it would be to start a Phoenix Club and to take it from the Northwest Counties or wherever it is, like whichever, back up? It's just a ridiculous amount of work and ridiculous amount of effort that us as fans would have to do, unpaid. It's just so much work, and it's just not an option. It's if it ever came to it, we'd have to do it. But I don't think that there's enough of our fans that have got enough that are prepared to put enough work and enough effort in. Because I think if they were, we'd see more of it in terms of what we're trying to do now. So that's a rallying call to fans out there. Now, if you want to avoid a Phoenix Club, if you want to avoid all this, you get involved now, and let's stop it from happening in the first place. Yeah. So I think we've been on for an hour and a half. Numbers are dwindling because people are getting bored of listening to us drivel on, aren't they, Gary?
I'm getting bored myself.
Yeah. So I think that's probably about a decent time to wrap it up. But yeah, thanks for joining us, fellas. Has anyone got anything they want to say just before we go?
Just engage with us. Just want fans to engage with us. Come to us with ideas. You want to keep, like I said, these are good things. These fans type forums. We'll do them again.
Definitely. Look, we've got the technology to do it. Why not do it? Thanks for joining in. Thanks for your comments. Even if we didn't read them all out, if your questions, we didn't read them all out. But I appreciate you taking the time to do it. It's really important, and it's appreciated. So we'll get this up on YouTube and on Facebook, and just like to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas time. Christmas time as we approach Christmas, and there'll be the other side of the Christmas song will be released on Monday's podcast. So that's something to be excited about, isn't it? There's no rapping on it though, Arlene. Don't worry. Right, cheers, lads.
Just to answer one of the questions, someone was asking about the court case. So I'll give a bit of a plug to your podcast. Listen to the podcast on Monday. I think there'll be an update on there.
The will. Andy's been. Sorry, I will.
No, I was just going to say Merry Christmas to everyone from Push the Boundary.
Jim, can you give us a Merry Christmas from OASF because you've got the Christmas jumper on?
Merry Christmas from OASF. It's Ghostbusters jumper as well.
Ghostbusters. Brilliant. Oh, I didn't know. I couldn't see that until then. It would have been nice to have seen that more of that, Jim, to be honest. There we go. Lovely. Someone will screenshot
one,
that.
and then people decided, oh, Jim really likes Christmas jumpers, so now I get one every year. And you can only wear them for like a limited period of time, so I've got 12.
12 days of Christmas, perfect. That's exactly as many as you need, isn't it? Right, thanks to everybody for joining in. Thanks for your time, lads, and we'll talk to you all soon. Take care.
Cheers, everyone.